You are about to enter the Shockwave Skull Sessions podcast on shockwaveskullsessions.com. And now your host, Bob Nalbandian. Part 2 of the Chris Akin, Michael Brandvold Skull Session starts now.
I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've heard stories of artists who don't even know the record contract that they signed.
Right.
You know, I'll example of that is I am tired of hearing every artist go, well, I make no money from my Spotify streams.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Spotify doesn't pay the artist. Spotify pays the rights holder. Right. Who's the rights holder of your album and your music? If it's Frontiers or anybody out there, they get paid, and then those rights holders have to pay you. You know, now the issue is not with the retailer, Spotify. The issue is back to who you signed your music away to. Ask them why the creative accounting says you haven't made any money yet.
Yeah, no, 100%.
You know, they got to learn they've got to really understand the business if they're going to take it upon their own shoulders. And if they don't understand the business, then they got to hire somebody who can do it for them.
Well, let me get to that. That's an interesting topic you bring up, and I know something that you and Neely have talked about, Chris, on the Classic Metal Show. And I know, you know, managing and working with bands back in the 80s and even going back to the 70s, you know, contracts that these bands signed. You got to remember, this was 40 years ago. And, of course, the record labels were smart in their contracts. You know, you could read back in a lot of these old contracts, even dating back from the 70s. Any form of music from vinyl. This is before there was even digital. They knew that there was going to be digital, starting with DAT tapes, you know, before the CDs and all that. Vinyl, 8-track tapes, cassette tapes, reel-to-reel tapes, any future digital services. So that will count for everything from CDs to downloads, which they never thought would be possible back then. And, you know, artists from, you know, even say the 80s, they're like, okay, what does this mean? Even, you know, attorneys will say, oh, you know, that's just standard procedure in contracts, you know. So on the artist's behalf, they never realized that it would be a situation where there was these bands wouldn't be making any money coming in the year 2000.
Yeah, yes and no. And I'm going to tell you why. In the regard to the old contracts that they signed, absolutely correct. They're fucked. You know, they signed those deals. They're going to deal with those deals. But these are bands that are now signing records or signing contracts record to record. I guarantee you LA Guns signed a contract for this new record. I don't know why I'm stuck on them, but, you know, I guarantee you that they signed an individual contract for this new record. So if they weren't happy with Spotify, they could easily have that language built into the contract that we don't want it on Spotify. None of them choose to do it. It goes back to what I was saying before about being lazy. They're not investing into their own product. Michael will tell you this too, because he talks to bands, and every band and their brother bitches about their music being given away for free. Yet every time they release a record, the day it's released, it's on YouTube, it's on Spotify, it's on Google Play, it's on iTunes.
Exactly. Yeah. It's your music. You could choose not to release it there. I mean, even if you do it yourself, you can go into TuneCore and say, you know what, just put it up on Amazon MP3 and iTunes. I don't want it going to any streaming service.
That don't matter.
You can do that.
I'll tell you
what. Very easy to do.
Someone else will do it. Anyone, if you don't put your money on iTunes, I mean, look, a lot of bands try doing that. AC/DC, when iTunes was the big thing. AC/DC for the longest time did not go on iTunes. The Beatles, Metallica. So bands that are doing Metallica tribute records are getting huge amounts of downloads through iTunes because they type in Metallica and it goes to, you know, a band called Killer. Well, what I'm saying is these bands are realizing that other people are capitalizing on their name and that they're missing out. So,
well, hold on, Bob. Yeah. I just want to hit that exact point. You're saying that they're realizing that they're capitalizing on their name. At the same time, you're saying that they're not getting anything for doing it. So which is it?
No, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying other people are capitalizing on their name.
No, I know,
Well-
but we're also saying that Spotify's not paying them, or they're feeling like they're not getting their payment for streams.
Well, they're not, because it's not them playing it. I mean, they might get whatever publishing end of it, but I'm saying it's a cover band doing Metallica songs, and it could be a shitty cover band doing Metallica songs. But I'm saying if someone searches Metallica on iTunes or whatever, that's going to pop up. You know what I'm saying? Because Metallica's not on iTunes.
Oh,
so
I totally
what I'm
get what you're
saying?
saying, Bob, but I think that specific example, frankly, is such a small issue. That specific one, and
Well, it was kind of a
I've
big
heard
thing
of it
for a
before.
while. Yeah, it was
where
kind of a big issue on iTunes.
It used to be a number of years
Yeah.
ago. It was, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, listener, and God knows they will. I think in the last couple years, iTunes, Apple has made changes to downplay these sound-alike artists, basically not giving them search results, not giving them exposure. So I think that's sort of been dealt with. But Bob, one of the points you were making is, they're like, oh, well, these artists see somebody else is capitalizing on their name. This all goes back to, what are you doing to protect your name?
That's my point. I'm just taking the artist point of view now. Is what I'm saying. When it becomes a deal where everyone is downloading music for free, they don't care where they get it. It's whether it be Spotify, YouTube, they're getting it for free nowadays. If you're not going to put it up officially, you're not going to have an official YouTube page, someone else is going to put it up. Your music is going to be available for free. That's what I'm saying. So,
but you have, if it is your music and you own the copyrights to it, and somebody else puts it up on YouTube, you can have it taken down.
Or
and if you're not doing that, you're not doing your job in protecting your business and career. Listen, just recently, like within the last week, and maybe it's been out there longer, but YouTube just sent me an email, individual me, saying, guess what? You can now go into your back end and you can see anybody who's got copyright violations against your videos. We'll show you everybody who's posted your videos or a percentage of your videos, and you can make a copyright claim. And just to try it out, I found somebody who, like 2 years ago, posted a full episode of Three Sides of the Coin up onto their account. So I made a copyright claim, and guess what? Within 1 week, YouTube took it down.
Right. And the other piece of that too, Bob, is YouTube, especially if we're talking YouTube has also made it so that if there is if a copyright holder has a song up and then we post a piece of their song, there is an option, and it's on the artist. The artist can say, okay, don't take it down, but they'll take the monetization from it.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, okay. I never knew how that worked. If the artist actually gets,
Yep.
Okay.
Because we just had that with our Tesla thing, because we played a lot of the Tesla record, and
Right.
And they of course immediately was a copyright strike, and I fought it with the fair use thing, and the common agreement is, well, we just aren't going to monetize it. Tesla will get the monetization for those songs that were played.
So the people that actually post it don't make any money off of it. They just get the views. Because I was wondering, even here, like I just said, listening to, and this not even relating to music, but relating to stealing copyright material, like you say, with your podcast, like with Three Sides of the Coin. Eddie Trunk had said something on your show, and he had said it on other shows. And the little segments of whatever Eddie Trunk will show up. And I'm thinking, wow, that's smart. He's doing everything in little segments, kind of like what Joe Rogan does. He'll do a 2.5 hour podcast, then cut it up, like a classic metal show does, like into 20 or 30 little segments. And then Eddie's saying, whether it's true or not, I don't think he would be lying, but he's saying that I don't know who's doing that. Someone else is doing that to my show. They're cutting it up and putting it on their YouTube page. And I'm thinking, well, what do you mean whatever? These views are getting some of them are getting 50, 60, 80, 90,000 views, in just a few days. And I would think he would want to capitalize. But so what you're saying is Eddie Trunk is still getting...
Well, he might be. You don't know. It all depends on the copyright holder. Is the copyright holder even out there trying to enforce it? Have they set it up so that they will get the ad revenue? And listen, let's be honest, 20, 30, 40,000 plays on YouTube. That's
not going to
peanuts.
amount much. Yeah.
Yeah,
but if you multiply that with 100 episodes, I mean, I'm just saying, regardless of what they're making, it's just, I think it's kind of.
I think the bigger issue is so many bands don't even know about all of this stuff. And that's the challenge, is they don't know they can go protect themselves. They don't know that they can file a takedown claim. It's very easy.
Yeah, and I think a lot of them think it is exposure. Look, I've had podcasts, like I said. I'm not social media savvy. When I release something, I might post it on my Facebook page. I'm not going to go post all the shit. I've seen a lot of my interviews from years ago, whether it be from with someone like a Dave Mustaine or even a David Ellison or whatever. I've seen it reposted on YouTube and other sites, getting 1,000 more views than my original one got. Whatever. I'm not going to give. I'm not going to take it down.
And that's what it comes down to. I mean, somebody hopefully understands that that's happening, understands their options, and makes a decision of, well, it's not worth it. I want my video everywhere. I want it as many places as possible. Share it, take it, do whatever you want. I just think there's a lot of artists out there who don't even go through all of that process.
Yeah. Well, one thing I'll tell you, I just saw the other day, I was kind of upset about, because one thing I'm just so, and I don't want to get into a whole thing about this unless you guys want to, is this whole recycled news fucking bullshit, where they'll just have some news go out and then 20 other fucking sites will. And now the big thing is Motley Crue, the Motley Crue movie, Mojo, right, and grunge and all these rock feed and all this shit. Motley Crue, 10 things you didn't know about. This is what you saw in the movie, which wasn't true. These motherfuckers, I think it was grunge or Mojo, like a big thing that had hundreds of thousands of views, took something from, they were talking about Greg Leon, which I think was funny, is that little segment when Mick Mars is auditioning, right, and they show the other guy, which is obvious to me that they're portraying Greg Leon. Right. Even though they say they're not, or they're claiming that, oh no, this is another guitar. You look at photos of Greg Leon, especially early photos from back in the day, he looks more like Greg Leon than that rapper dude looks like Tommy Lee in the movie. I mean, that is the closest of anything. And what I thought was funny is they used a segment from Inside Metal, because I'm going, where are they going to find a Greg Leon piece? And they cut something from my Inside Metal movie. And
so take it down.
I guess I probably could. I mean, is it worth the effort?
You know what, though, Bob? In the end, as a content creator, which you are, which we all are here, for us, where we're not, this isn't our bread and butter, it's better to be used that way. I mean,
I really don't care. What kind of annoyed me is the fact that I just kind of how they downplayed the whole Greg Leon thing to make him look like such a. Greg Leon was an established guitar player. He took Randy Rhoads' place in Quiet Riot, which was turned into DePro. He was in Dokken before George Lynch. Sweet 19 was a big band, and they made it out like, Mick Mars comes in and like Greg Leon's like this nobody guy, and I don't know. I just thought it was just cheesy how they involved my piece into that. But
they lit your fuse and got your watch.
Exactly. They did. I mean, I kind of I was kind of laughing at it, but now that we bring this up, it's like kind of those fucking. They could have at least said, "Hey, from the Inside Metal movie," but the fact that they used it in that kind of situation where it was completely. If it was somebody like you or someone that knew what they were talking about, that's one thing. But it was like everything I was watching on this thing was like ridiculous. It's like obviously these people that don't know anything about music, that don't know anything about Motley Crue, are trying to capitalize in this movie, so they're just trying to throw shit together. Don't involve me in that.
It's all just an example of going back to how the business has changed. Back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, somebody else, lawyers, were watching out for your best interests, and they were doing it all behind the scenes, and you didn't worry about it. Now you've got to do it. I mean, I'm literally working with a new up and coming artist, and we're like, all right, you've got to create your website, you've got to create all your social media accounts. We got to come up with your name, and before you pick the name, guess what? I need to actually search to see if the domain is available. I gotta look in advance before you pick a name. What does the Google search results look like? Is it available on Facebook and Twitter? And, things that 20, 30, 40 years ago, bands never thought about. when you were naming a band back in the 70s, you were probably sitting around drunk as all and throwing names out there, and you picked a name and you're like, that sounds great. And if it turned out that there was, Wrathchild, there is a perfect example. There's a Wrathchild in the UK and there was a Wrathchild in the US.
Sure.
Yeah.
Guess what? Just change your name to Wrathchild UK.
Yep. Yeah.
Problem solved. You don't have that luxury anymore today. You have to, advance research all this stuff. And then when you do get it, you have to actively protect it. Mm-hmm. And even though you're a nobody right now, and you might sit here and go, who cares? No one's going to steal our name. Yeah, but you might be a nobody right now, but in 12 months you might be a somebody. And if you didn't protect your work, you could be screwed. I mean, I trademarked 3 sides of the coin just so I could protect the name. And guess what? I've already had one time where I've had to reach out to another, it was a coin collecting podcast.
Right.
That came
I've
out
seen that actually.
3 sides of the coin. And I emailed them and I said, hey, just a courtesy, I own the trademark. And they're like, oh, hey, we never did our research. We apologize. We'll change our name. That's what you've got to do these days. If you don't do it, eventually you're going to get screwed somehow. Somebody's going to, I want to recall, and this is years ago, GeneSimmons.com was owned by a fan. Actually, KissOnline.com was owned by a fan. Here's a little backstory for when I was working with Kiss. So their website launched as KissOnline.net.
Was it a fan or was it a porn company?
It was a fan.
Because I remember when you could buy the .com names, the porn companies bought up tons of them and used a lot of metal names. Like if you go to Scorpions.com.
Oh,
it
yeah.
would be a
No,
porn company.
it was notorious for people to domain squat.
Right.
Buy a domain, sit on it, and do nothing.
Exactly.
And if you don't buy up your names now, the good versions, and, even like whatever your band name is, get bandnamesucks.com as well. It's like what, an $8 investment for the year to buy a domain name?
Right.
Come on. If you buy the domain name and do nothing with it, you're fine. Or 10 years from now, you've got to hire a lawyer and go into a legal case, and maybe you end up having to buy the domain name from somebody for $5,000.
You're definitely right though, as far as the domain names. And as a web guy, I can't tell you how many, and you probably have too, how many times you get a customer and they let their secretary or something buy their name, and then they don't know who owns it. And then
they don't know who owns it, or the absolute worst, and this is the simplest piece of advice I will give everybody. Mm-hmm. If you register your domain name, set it to auto-renew.
Amen.
Yeah.
Auto-renew, people. I can't tell you how many clients I've had who, oh my God, my website went down. What happened? Well, GoDaddy says we didn't renew the domain. How did that happen? I didn't see the email. It went into my spam folder.
Yeah, that happened to me.
If you get screwed because somebody was waiting to pull it, to buy it, you might be out of luck. Yeah. A lot of times you might be able to get in there and renew it right away. Auto-renew your domain names. You don't have to worry about it. You'll just get an email that says, guess what? We just renewed it for another year.
This is valuable advice. We should be charging for this podcast, guys. We should be charging $9.99 per download.
You know what, Bob? As many times as I have said that over, I've been doing the Music Biz Weekly podcast since 2011. It still happens.
Yeah.
It's on there, and still people don't do it. So
I just built a website for a touring band that's out touring with major acts that you've heard of, and they lost their name because they just forgot about it. They were off tour, so they forgot about it, didn't renew their site, and is actually weird because it was a worm farm out of Australia bought their name. And we had to build a brand new site with a brand new domain. Wow. Everything that they had built up at that point gone.
Yeah, and let me add, this doesn't happen quite as often, but if you sign a contract with a record label or somebody, make sure you understand what you're giving them the rights to.
Right.
Do not give them the rights to own your domain name.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say a lot of them. Some of them might try and get that. And then good luck, controlling and managing it, because guess what? You just signed it away in a contract.
Yeah. They'll let you have it when they're done with you.
Yeah.
Or they might.
They'll sell it to you.
If you unrecouped with them,
Yeah, they might not.
They may sit here and go, no, we're going to sit. When you recoup, buy yourself out, we'll give you your domain name.
Yeah.
True.
The label is a business. They're not your friend, no matter how friendly they will be to you. One thing I do want to talk about, though, which is an interesting thing. I mean, again, going back to why a lot of people will go with a label rather than doing it themselves. Obviously, a label has staff that's still maybe not as big a staff. They may not have a retail staff and a publicity staff and a radio staff. And one thing that's big is the whole packaging, which I notice a lot of labels like Metal Blade will do a big package deal where they release vinyl, colored vinyl, a CD they release, and they sell it in packages for $19.99 or $25.99 or whatever. And there are still a lot of collectors out there, and that's why you always see these, David Coverdale with Whitesnake just put out the 30th anniversary for Slide It In. 6 CDs, $100 or whatever. There's going to be a lot of hardcore fans that are going to spend that $100. And the other thing that people tie in with a lot of this stuff, even the major labels are doing, like a Pledge Music, which obviously I haven't really heard much since that whole fiasco with, I know Queensryche went through it and everything. I don't know if Pledge Music...
Pledge is still an absolute disaster right now.
Still,
so
okay.
For word of advice, you couldn't launch anything on Pledge because they've shut down the ability for anybody to launch a campaign. But Pledge Music needs to be out of anybody's marketing plans.
Yeah. What happened there? Because that was a huge thing. A lot of bands, a lot of labels were going through,
I spent a lot of money on them as a fan. I loved what Pledge Music offered for bands. I bought a number of Cheap Trick releases through them. I've done a number of things. And honestly, the truth of what happening hasn't fully come out yet, other than it's very big financial mismanagement, basically.
It's shady.
Yeah.
It's shady.
What do you think about? I mean, I guess there's still others out there. I know there was Kickstarter.
You could use Kickstarter. I love crowdfunding. I think it's great. But here again, I deal with some clients that come in and they think crowdfunding is just going to be a slam dunk. I'm going to do is launch this and tell people I want $10,000 and it's going to show up. And I'm like, you got to work your ass off to market and promote your crowdfunding campaign, just like you would work your ass off to market and promote the album that your crowdfunding campaign is going to finance. And second, don't even consider crowdfunding if you don't have a fan base, because you won't find fans on crowdfunding. You're only going to get money from your existing fans, and only a small percentage. So, I mean, you got 10,000 fans. You're not going to have 10,000 fans pony up money. You might get 100 fans.
Right.
So you've got to have a big fan base, as big as possible, I should say, before you go out and do any crowdfunding. Yeah. Understand the business.
True.
Bands would be much smarter to use like a Patreon type of a system, and do tiered stuff with releases, and sign up for 6 months of videos from the band as well as the new album for $75 or whatever it would come out to, and go that route where it's all, again, we keep coming back to that, keep control of your business. At least with Patreon, you basically control everything. You pay Patreon. I think Patreon takes 5% or something of your transactions, but that's all they take. It's a free service, and they take just a cut off of what comes in. So, it would make more sense to work with that kind of a system. You could crowdfund a new release and merch and all that other stuff, but you got to be responsible enough with the money that comes in to make sure that you produce those albums and you produce those CDs that are signed, and the tchotchkes that you give to the people that subscribe to your thing. But I don't know. I'm not the biggest fan of it. I I'm not a collector, so I don't buy anything. But
But I think the collector part is where people need to get creative, meaning just giving a reward of an autographed CD and an autographed vinyl LP, that's not cutting it anymore, people.
Right.
You got to get super creative in that, gee, if you pledge $5,000, we'll give you a road case.
Right.
We'll you've got to really step it up and create exciting rewards and exciting items that people can purchase. Just a T-shirt, a vinyl LP, and a CD, that's not exciting. Because frankly, those things will probably be available in your own online store after the album is done anyway.
Yeah, you got to give them a sword or a guitar strap or something like that. Something exciting.
as much as everybody likes to goof on Kiss, say what you want about Gene Simmons in that vault. That was a genius move, flying out to each city and hand delivering it to people. And, I mean, how else is he going to get $2,500 or $5,000 or whatever it was for, we
did a whole episode on the Music Biz Weekly podcast about that, because if you really think about it, what Gene did there was he figured out a way how to sell music again. And basically, he wasn't necessarily selling you the music in the box set. Yeah. He was selling you the one-on-one meet and greet with him. Right. And guess what? He gave you as a gift this giant vault of music.
Right.
You spent $2,000 to meet Gene. You're walking away with a bunch of free music. That was selling the experience. And one of the things I think we can all relate to this, we all remember the days of album releases.
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
When it was like, oh, my God, everybody's lining up, Monday night, because when the doors open on Tuesday, and this is for all you youngins, when records were released on Tuesdays, not on Fridays, right. It was an event. It was going to be a huge gathering of fans. Maybe the band was going to show up and do autographs or something. So the album release used to be an event. And that went away as soon as iTunes and MP3s showed up, because it was no longer an event. You just woke up in the morning and there was your music.
Yeah.
What Gene created was an event.
Yeah. I mean, that was a huge thing, especially in LA, the Tower Records at midnight, the new Guns N' Roses comes out, or the new Metallica or whatever. It was a huge deal. Radio stations and that again was when radio stations were active on the local circuit. They would have a DJ on the spot, doing a live feed from the record store. And it was, even when I managed a local band, Eden, we did a record signing at a store in Montebello. We had Tom Mastery from KNAC do a live thing there. We had 400 people fucking show up.
I think people need to remember in this day and age, it's not about selling music anymore. If all you really want to do is sell music, get out of the business, because you're going to have a tough time surviving if that's all you're doing. You got to sell experiences. Right. You got to sell moments, memories, emotions. That's what you got to sell. And hopefully in that process, you've attached your music to it.
And of course, as we all know, it comes down to, with bands that do make money, live performances and merchandising. We've talked about some of the different ways of merchandising. Of course, a lot of bands, important to own your own merchandising, especially this day and age where you could sell T-shirts and whatever at your live shows. And something I want to talk to you about, Michael, which I don't know if enough people give you credit for, because I just learned about this being on your show, is you are the actual man that came up with the whole VIP experience.
There's people that love me and hate me for that. Yeah.
Which is pretty amazing. Now, let me ask you something, dude. For all this time you've worked with Gene Simmons, I hope you learned from him and you trademarked the VIP experience. So every band that uses that, you get a percentage of.
I was an employee of a company, so I couldn't do that. But just to your point, fun aside, yes, I did learn from Gene Simmons, because when I started my business, I called it Michael Brandvold marketing because I want my name out there all the time.
Sure.
And I trademarked it. I trademarked my name. I've trademarked the podcast names. I've maintained control of it. So yeah, I've learned from that. But yeah, I wish I had a commission off of every artist VIP package. But frankly, to me, it was just cool to see that it worked, especially at a time, because that was back in 2003 when record sales had pretty much bitten the dust for artists. And, they weren't making money anymore selling music. And artists were like, where can we find new revenue streams? And that's what we came up with.
Now, this was with Kiss, obviously, right? Exclusively with Kiss that you started this with? Or was
we did a couple shows to test the concept out with Sammy Hagar, but it wasn't like a full-blown tour. It wasn't a full-blown big deal. And Kiss was the first band that we went full in and created this experience. And the story basically is I'm a huge Kiss fan. I've been a fan since 76. So I'm sitting here going, well, as a Kiss fan, what would I spend money for? What do I want more than anything? Kiss fans want to get a picture with the band. Remember, back in 2003, unless you were in the industry or knew somebody, you weren't getting backstage. True. You weren't getting a photo with the band. Fans wanted that. I also know that, during the reunion tour, fans were spending $500, $700 for a single ticket from a scalper to get in the front on the main floor. So I'm like, all right, so they want a great seat and they want to meet the band. The band is making great seats available to me at the website to sell. So what can I bundle into this so we're not just selling a ticket for face value? And that's where I was just like, okay, we'll guarantee you a front row ticket. We'll get you a picture with the band. We'll create a T-shirt. We were the merch company, so, T-shirts are $1 a piece. We'll give you an autographed tour book. Again, we were doing the tour books, so those are a couple bucks. And we'll get a bunch of guitar picks from the band, and we'll give you everybody free guitar picks. And you know what? We'll sell it for $1,000. See if the demand is there. And the demand was.
And that's huge, that to think that, this is something you created. Did you realize when you did this? Because now it's the norm with a lot of bands. Even smaller bands are doing the whole, and they learn from that model that you created. Did you foresee this happening with so many other bands?
As soon as we had success with the KISS program, as soon as we were selling out we were doing 25 $1,000 packages a show. And as soon as they sold out on a 60-day tour, every other artist out there, and remember, the company I worked for represented merchandising for a lot of major artists. Everybody became very interested in this. Whoa, wait a second. There's a lot of money to be made out there for a half hour of my time, and I'm already at the show. Because you got to keep in mind with artists, what I've learned over the years is they don't want to do any more work unless you give them a financial incentive to do more work.
Right.
So it's sort of like, okay, you don't have to do anything really more because you're already at your show. You're probably already doing an industry meet and greet. So give us 25 minutes and we'll sell it to some fans. And you can make some additional money. And everybody got excited on it. Now, what's been a little disappointing is seeing how so many people launch VIP programs and really don't put any thought into it other than I just want to do that. I want to do this just to take money from my fans.
Right.
Meaning the programs are not exciting. They're not they don't have value to them. You've got to make it worthwhile to the fan to spend that money. And, for $75, just come back and you get a photo with me hanging by the front bar at our show. Mm-hmm. That's not really a great incentive. It doesn't elicit a lot of love from fans.
Right.
Great. And these are your most die-hard fans that are going to spend this money. So it's going to be very easy to piss them off.
Absolutely. Chris, I know you and Neely have talked about the VIP packages several times on your on this Classic Metal show. And I agree exactly with what you're saying, Michael. I think there's I'm not against the VIP thing at all, but I am against the way a lot of bands market it and some of the prices that they offer the fans for what they offer. It's not that much of a deal. I agree. You do have to make it something exciting and something exclusive, because the artists, these fans that have followed the band, especially, like I said, these classic rock bands or bands from the 80s that have followed them for 20, 30, maybe 40 years, this is going to be the one, it could be the one and only time they're going to meet you, and they want to take something special home with them. So I do agree, and I think the thing I don't like about it is a lot of bands do take it for granted. It's just a money grab, a money grab situation. And again, Chris, I know you have talked about this. What's your view on the whole VIP?
Yeah. I'm not a fan necessarily of it. It is what it is in today's world where nobody's buying the records. They got to make their money somewhere. I get that. And what I have a real problem with is the gouging. When it's a straight gouge, when it's Motley Crue for $2,500 and one guy doesn't want to come, and you get the only real merch you get is you get a 20% discount off of the merch, but you get
you get a coupon to spend more money.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
That's really, really shitty to do that to your fans that have already, every fan of Motley Crue that's at that show has already built a garage or something on one of their mansions. So, don't gouge them to death. And, and I'm sure you heard it, Bob, we castigated Kiss pretty good about this current thing with the, $20,000 for the fire sword or this and that, come on.
Well, go ahead. I was just going to say, you're opening up some wounds for Michael Brandvold.
Listen. The one thing I learned from when we very first launched these back in 2003 is there's a lot of emotions about this.
Yeah.
Fans have a lot of opinions, and that's fine. It's fine that some people like it, some people don't.
My whole thing is just because your fans have disposable income and are nuts doesn't mean that you have to take advantage of their nuttiness to take their disposable income. Kiss of all, and again, I'm not anti-Kiss. I'm just not a huge Kiss fan necessarily, but they certainly don't need. There's no reason in the world that Gene needs to charge. What was those swords? $12,000.
$12,000 for the sword.
Yeah, he should sell the sword for $1,000. Or $5,000 for the whole experience. And even $5,000 sounds like a lot of money to me, but when that you've got guys that have your face tattooed on your leg and will go take a loan and not pay their kids' tuition or whatever just to do that. I know it's not their responsibility to take care of their fans, but geez, oh man, when is enough? That's really and again, the VIP experience. I personally, when I have backstage passes, 90% of the time I find friends and I give them to them because I don't want to wait around for 2 hours. I'd rather just go home. But for some fans, they're the very opposite. They can't wait to get that photo. I can't tell you how many friends' houses I've walked into and there's a photo of them with Vinnie Paul from Pantera or James Hetfield or whoever, and it's like that's cool if that's what you're into. But man, oh man, when it starts getting to be, a year's worth of car payments for a $2 prop, that's just crazy.
Yeah, well, Michael and I had, we recently did a podcast on his show, The Two Sides of the Coin, Three Sides of the Coin. I'm sorry, Three Sides of the Coin with Mark and Tommy, and we brought this up, and I said the same thing, on the podcast, and that was what I was joking about, saying Kiss fans are stupid in the sense that even though as much as I don't agree with Gene about ripping off the fans, he's a businessman first, and with any business, it's supply and demand, and if people are going to pay that. And he knows people are going to pay that. Then, I personally, I would never do it. But hey, all the best to them. What they're selling out of the VIP packages. So obviously, there is a demand, and some of these Kiss fans, it seems like they do have disposable income. They have a lot of money. Go ahead.
Well, I was, a couple things. I mean, one of the things we learned when we launched it was the classic rock fan base is the ideal fan base, because these are people who control the credit card. They can spend the money without getting permission for the most part. They've been waiting their entire life to meet their idols. So it's a perfect storm, because we tried to do VIP meet and greets back in the early 2000s with Jessica Simpson when she was all the rage, and her reality show.
She was hot.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And we were like, okay, we could,
like that, Chris.
she's all over the place. We could do a meet and greet for, I think it was $300 or $400. We thought this should be a no brainer to sell. We couldn't sell them because mom and dad had to pay for it for the 12-year-old girl who wanted to be Jessica. And they've already spent a fortune on Jessica Simpson, merchandise and music and buying concert tickets. They're not spending another $400. Right. So we couldn't do that. A Kiss fan, an Alice Cooper fan, Deep Purple fans, yes, Motley Crue. Those people are 40, 50, 60 years old.
Sure.
It's their money. They spend their money on their own. They don't have to beg and plead to do it. So that's something we learned right away, that there's definitely ideal target markets for this type of stuff.
Well, too bad you didn't inform Chris Akin about that Jessica Simpson meet and greet. He would have paid $4,000 for that. But she would have to be at least in a bikini, right?
She'd have had to do the bikini dance, washing the General Lee. But hell yes,
you know what? What's funny for coming up with the Kiss meet and greets and all these other artists, I wouldn't spend the money on it. To me personally, I wouldn't spend that kind of money to meet an artist. Mm. Again, I'm not taking away from somebody who wants to, because, a lot of people have no idea or time to go hang out at a hotel or go figure out how to get backstage or do something to meet the band. And you know what? They want to just do it without worry. And here's $1,000, and sure, you can go backstage and get a good ticket and meet the band, and your dreams comes true, and you got a photo to brag to your buddies at work about. Great, because again, as you said, Bob, it's all supply and demand. If those tickets didn't sell for $1,000, I can tell you we wouldn't have kept doing them.
Again, it's just like any business. They know if there's a demand, they're going to raise the price, and that's
what did we say, Bob? On Three Sides, vote with your wallet.
Right, and Kiss fans are stupid. I just want to get that across.
That's why You know what? In some sense, not just Kiss fans, but all fans.
I know.
The three of us see this all the time.
Yeah.
The fans that get online and bitch and moan about whatever it is about their favorite artist, and then when the tickets go on sale or the new album is released, they're right there opening up their wallet, spending the money on it, and at the end of the day, that's the vote that counts.
Absolutely. No matter how much they bitch about it, they think they're influencing people about it. They're not.
Exactly. You're not. You influence people by actually saying, you know what? I don't like this, and I'm not buying a ticket, and I'm not going to the show, and I'm not buying the new album or the new DVD or whatever because you don't like. Do that. That tells somebody, wow, we didn't sell quite as many of these.
And one thing that you bring this up, I want to kind of wind down, in this last 10 minutes, talking about the future of social media marketing. Where does it come in? Michael, I'll start with you, since I know that you're obviously involved with social media marketing. Obviously, you have to be savvy and about the new changes, whether it be technology, social media, whatever that's going on. But where does it become? And this is something, again, I saw on your Facebook page, what I just think is just so hilarious. And where I'll go to the millennial groups of people where they feel now that they are entitled. The social media influencer bullshit. I'm a social media influencer. there was, I guess, some resort in the Caribbean or something.
Yeah,
And I
that
just got
basically
to
said
laugh at it.
you can't book a vacation with your Instagram followers.
And people they actually have the balls. Listen to this, Chris. People are telling them, I'm a social media influencer. I want 4 free rooms, and I want free drinks, and I want this and that. You know, a lot of them, they were saying that the guy would look up and he's maybe got like 1,000 followers or something. But this is the entitlement that this new generation of people think that they could use this instead of cash. Their influence is so crucial. And I mean, I look at it like this is just the biggest goddamn joke. But, you know, I know this to be true because I was talking to, and this was like, I mean, probably about 10 years ago, I was talking to my buddy who's a publicist. And he was marketing, not just bands, he worked for different companies that would market different, you know, household items or any kind of items. And he's telling me, and this is someone that had worked with the music business, and I'm saying, oh, it's probably so much, you don't have to deal with all the bullshit and these fucking people in the music business trying to get this for free trial. He goes, dude, you have fucking no idea. And he brings up, are you familiar with mommy bloggers?
Yeah.
Blogger. And again, this was, you know, probably about 8 to 10 years ago. I go, what the fuck is a mommy blogger? And apparently they're like these millennial moms, or I guess, you know, very social media savvy moms that literally do have an influence on the market, whether it be like a household item or some kind of exercise equipment was what he was working with. And they will not just expect stuff from the manufacturer, demand stuff. Or we're going to give you a bad review where they have this much influence. And I'm telling him, well, dude, tell him to fuck off. He goes, I can't. I'm hired by them, by the publicist. And apparently these mommy bloggers, some of them have so many followers and so much power that the manufacturers are worried that they'll give them a bad review, that they fucking give in. And now I see this filtering over into the music business, where some of these sites, these news sites, like I said, it's just recycled news that they're taking, but they're so powerful that they could, you know, slam these artists or say certain things about it. And now I'm hearing from different podcasts. This would never happen to me, you, or Chris, because we would tell them to straight fuck off if they ever told you that, hey, we want to see the questions in advance. But where some of these people have so much influence that it is affecting the whole business into where this is not what rock and roll is about. This is not what metal is about. But you talk about having to adapt. Where do you draw the line? Michael, I'll start with you.
Well, and I was thinking about this even after I posted that article about the Instagram followers and trying to correlate it to something we might be able to understand. I feel like social media is right now still, even though it's been around for a number of years, it's still in its infancy. And people only care about numbers, eyeballs, basically. How many people are on your Facebook page? How many people are on your Instagram page? Oh, I got 2 million people on Instagram. That's awesome. Beautiful. Let's talk a deal here. Well, that's just eyeballs. And for those of us who were around on the internet back in, let's say 2000, when it exploded in a bad way,
right?
It exploded because websites back then only cared about visits to the website.
Yep.
Right.
Eyeballs. Oh my God, we've got 5 million people a day coming to our website. You need to invest $1 billion in us. Great. But all of a sudden, business, finance, Wall Street woke up and said, yeah, you got eyeballs, but we just realized you're not actually making any money or selling any products with those eyeballs. And the whole internet bombed. You know, the bottom fell out. I kind of feel like that's what's going on right now with a lot of social media. You got 2 million people following you on Instagram, and someone wants to give you, $100,000 to make a post for some very high-end vacation resort. How many of those people in that 2 million could actually afford to go to a high-end vacation resort?
Right.
None? Well, there you go. Your influence is nothing.
Yep.
You've got 2 million eyeballs, but the people aren't the people who are going to spend the money. Bands have the same problem. Are you going to get on a website that actually matters to your music, your fan base, or are you just going to the website because it's the biggest rock and metal website out there? That's sort of what's happening right now, and I think people are starting to understand what really matters are the real targeted audience that I want. I would rather have 3,000 targeted fans than 300,000 who knows who the hell they are and what they want and what they care about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's ClickFunnels Marketing 101. Do you really want everybody, or do you just want the ones that are looking to buy? I'd rather just have the ones that are looking to buy.
Exactly. So I think, social media is going to keep evolving, but what will help are more people like that guy who told the Instagram follower, you're not getting a free vacation. I don't fault the Instagram person for asking.
I remember people that used to write for magazines or something. They would go to bars expecting to get shit, and they would have a cocky attitude. Well, I'll write a bad review, that kind of stuff. But, these were people that wrote for legitimate magazines, and they just were cocky assholes, But for someone that's a nobody, that's just, I'm a social media, and like you said, how many people do you actually influence? When you go to their site, you see you only have so-and-so followers, and like you said, most of these followers are underage people that wouldn't be able to afford this shit anyway. But
see, all that leads up to is, in my view, it puts the responsibility on the businesses to make a smart business decision and say, no, I'm not going after your influencers because they have nothing to do with what I'm targeting.
But I think so many people are so goddamn afraid now that it's going to lose business. I mean, look, that's why they're constantly apologizing about shit. And, Chris and Neely could tell you about this on their show all the time. They talk about it. And I understand why they do it. It's because it will hurt their business ultimately. If you work for a big organization and you do something that, whether it's wrong or right, the public views you as it being wrong, so much to the effect where it will influence a negative on the business, then whoever's in charge of that business is going to say, you need to go in public and apologize, and that's kind of where I see this happen. Like I said, with my buddy who was talking about the mommy bloggers, I'm saying, dude, tell them to fuck off. Who the fuck do these people are? Where they're demanding to the business, I want this, you better send me this. And he's saying the people are buckling to it like, hey, just give her what she wants. We can't afford the press. And that's where it's coming to a scary situation. Chris, you want to throw your views on that?
I've told this on the show before, but I'll tell it here. I've had that problem with my pinball place. We were trying to do we were paying attention to who was coming into the place day to day. It was all guys. I decided to do a ladies' night. Ladies get in free, just like any bar has ever done, ever. And I immediately got hit by the LGBT 1, 2, 3, 4 community,
right.
Trying to tell me how to do my business, telling me that I couldn't do a ladies' night and it was unfair and it was unjust and blah, 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 blah. And I needed to change it and whatever. I was like, what, go fuck yourself. My business, I invested the money. I'm going to do my business my way. And I didn't cave to it. And, nor did I or would I ever apologize for anything that I do. And guess what? All the threats of, well, we're going to pick it and this, guess what? None of that happened. And if it did, it did. When they said they were going to go to the press about us, I was like, well, make sure you spell the business name.
Exactly. Get the URL right.
Yeah, get that part right. I don't care, because I guarantee you there's more people that are not down with your cause, but are down with pinball that will come in and play. So shut up.
Hey, man, why aren't more people like you two gentlemen out there? God damn. People.
Because, again, what we started at the very beginning of the show, too many people want everybody to like them.
Yeah,
exactly.
And all they do, and maybe this is something that comes with age, because I remember when I was a kid, that's all I cared about. You're in high school and you just want everybody to like you. You don't want to make waves. As I got older and older and older, I'm like, I don't give a crap what you think of me. I like what I'm doing. I'm happy with it. If you're not happy, that's your problem, not my problem.
Yeah, we all wanted to be a rebel, but then we all became rebels.
Yeah. You get older and you learn from experience that worrying about what that person on the street corner thinks about you doesn't matter, because you're never going to see that person on the street corner again.
Right.
But, and I'll end it with the whole philosophy on Three Sides: love us or hate us. Just get out of the middle.
Yeah.
Right. I remember you said that.
I got no problem if you hate us with a passion. Please continue to slam us on message boards. Continue to slam us in Facebook groups. Every time you talk about us, it's promotion.
Someone will look.
You mean you don't get your feelings hurt, Michael? You don't go run to a safe space or anything because of all the negative flack you're getting?
I laugh at it. And what's even funnier is we actually tell our listeners that this is, listen, get pissed at us. Keep doing it. You're talking about us. We love you for hating us. And that gets them even more mad. And how can you act that way? And it's just like, what do you want me to do? I'm just telling you in all honesty. We love the fact that you hate us so much and that you continue to just rant and rave about us. If you really wanted to hurt us, shut up.
Aren't you glad I brought you two together? You guys are like two peas in a pod. You guys,
a lot of the same ideas, that's for sure.
Absolutely. Why don't you guys? We'll definitely have you back. I'd love to have you both on as regulars on this. This is a great. I mean, we could go on forever, obviously, but like I said, it is 2 hours in. Why don't you guys, before we end, give out your speaking of social media, all your different links and whatever you want to publicize, anything you got going on, books or any kind of promo you got going on. Michael, we'll start with you.
So my personal website, my business website is michaelbrandvold.com, brandvold.com. You can find me, search for Michael Brandvold. You can find me personally on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and YouTube. I'm everywhere. Three Sides of the Coin is threesidesofthecoin.com. And you can find that on Instagram as well, and Twitter and Facebook and YouTube. And the podcast is available pretty much everywhere you could imagine finding a podcast.
All right. Mr. Akin, I'm sure you got fuel for the fire on your next classic metal show after this conversation.
Well, there's always on my fire, but
absolutely.
My plugs, Akin IT Services is my web, social media, blah, blah, blah. That stuff. Pinball PA, if you're in the Pittsburgh area and you want to play video games or classic pinball machines, classic arcade games, they're there. It's as big as a Target, and it's just filled with video games and pinball machines. Pinballpa.com is that. Obviously, the show, the Classic Metal Show, Saturdays, 9 p.m. to 3 a.m. Eastern, is live, and then it's on every social media known to man, YouTube, Daily Motion, BitChute, Facebook, Twitter, Gab, blah, blah, blah. So that's that. And then my books. My books are available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble and ChrisAkinBooks.com. So I think that's enough.
All right. I didn't realize your pinball machine, your pinball palace was that big as a Target.
It's huge.
I got to come out there one of these days. Definitely.
The thing I tell everybody is wear comfortable shoes because the hard floor wears your feet out. But it's huge. I still go in it and I look at it and I'm always like, damn, that's all mine.
Wow. Very cool. And hey, Michael, I don't know if you know something Chris is modest about, but he actually got knighted by Angry Anderson from Rose Tattoo.
Really?
Yeah, as Angry Akin, although he's downplaying that here on this show, but he had to throw that in there. Guys, it was a total pleasure. This was fantastic.
It was fun.
Conversation.
We will definitely do this again very soon, and tune into both their shows, both fantastic. You know why? Because they feature me on it. It's all about me. All right, gentlemen, always a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you for listening to the Shockwave Skull Sessions podcast. You can subscribe and listen to all episodes of the Shockwave Skull Sessions podcast on iTunes, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Spreaker, Google Play, and more. Be on the lookout real soon for our new website at www.shockwaveskullsessions.com. Go to our social media pages on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube for up-to-date news on the Shockwave Skull Sessions podcast. Email all questions, comments, and suggestions to shockwaveskullsessions@gmail.com.